Welcome to MonsterCast, the podcast giving you the stories and insights of the monster truck world you won't find anywhere else. And now, giggity, 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 your hosts Cameron Miguez and Mason Paul.
Well, I don't think we could have introduced ourselves any better. Big shout out to Mr. Scott Heaton for that badass intro. And hey, what about that new timer, Cam?
Yeah, it looks like it worked perfect, about like anything else we would work on. So, yeah, I think it was dead nuts. Good job.
Yeah, so a little bit of bugs, still work out on it. And for those listening on Spotify, Podbean, Google Podcasts, any of those audio plugs we have, make sure to check out our Facebook and our YouTube to see a bunch of these stuff like these video goodies we were just talking about, and also see our beautiful faces live.
Well,
Anyways,
I don't know about beautiful faces, but they got to see your sweet picture you had there.
I think they got a glimpse of it there. I mean, since this whole quarantine thing came out, I've been working on a lot of, getting myself in shape. That was a picture I think I took 2 months ago. So, I mean, I think I'm actually looking a lot better in that picture, in that intro than I do now. So, hey.
Well, the estrogen tablets seem to really be helping.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right, so welcome everybody to the show. I'm really excited about tonight's episode. We've got a true legend of the business in here tonight. First, Mason, you want to give a little shout out to our sponsors?
Yep, of course. We still have Spur Hot Sauce, the Florida-based hot sauce business where the Southwest meets the Southeast in a clash of hot and tang flavors. Next time you want to spice up your next meal, think of Spur Hot Sauce. Make sure to give them a like and contact on Facebook and Instagram, and make sure you tell them MonsterCast sent you. Also, we still have Monster Truckinator TV, which is the place to go on for anything new and old monster truck related. They have some badass content, and I'm sure they have some content of Fred right now.
Yeah, well, I know we got some other stuff to talk about, shows and stuff that happened over the weekend, but I don't want to wait. So I would say we bring in the legend himself, the Hall of Famer, Mr. Fred Shafer.
We've all had a Bigfoot stepping on cars, but what about barefoot? Fred Shafer. Back in.
Fred Shafer, the barefoot Dodge, a nice smooth ride. We documented earlier about some problems that Fred has had.
We got a race. Gary, we got a race.
Fred Shafer. Nothing else. If he beats Runty now, he can say, I got you last.
Oh, Shafer took him. I think Shafer took him. The crew certainly thinks so. And Shafer a 482. Now, Runty had been the fast ET of round one at 480. Even though you've been told so. Can you hear the rumble? Can you hear the rumble? It's calling.
Well, Mr. Fred Shafer, how are we tonight, sir?
We're great. We're great. Thanks for having me on. It brings back a lot of old memories watching that footage.
Well, trust me, the privilege is all of ours having you on. Well, let's just start from the beginning. Let's go with what and how you got started in the monster truck business.
Okay, former drag racer. I drag raced professionally for about 6 or 7 years, and kind of didn't quite make it as good as I wanted to make it. And then we went to 4x4 trucks and started incorporating some of that drag race stuff in there, a little more powerful, a little bit bigger tires, and it just one thing led to another. Started out with 48s driving on the street with a 454 with a blower on it. The Bears came right in at that time. Sugar Bear, the smaller one, she would ride in the truck with me sometimes. And before we knew it, we started getting calls going to mud races and different events. At that time, no cars was crushed at that time. It was about a year later, I think, before car crushing started.
Well, so, I mean, you were around, unlike a lot of people we've had on here, you know, that raced maybe some in the 90s with the Penda series and all that stuff. I mean, you started back when this was truly just an exhibition. I mean, car crushes happened, you know, either during a mud race or a tractor pull. I mean, talk about what it was like with them
Yes.
days, all of a sudden doing something people had never seen before.
Exactly. It started out exhibition because there was only a handful of trucks there at the beginning. I don't know who was a first, second, or third or any of that, but I mean, it was only a handful of trucks in the whole nation. So we never was. The first year or two is very unlikely to be with another truck because there was such a demand for them. You was usually exhibition by yourself. But then as we went from state to state, we would hear people come up and tell us stories about, their cousins building the truck or their brothers building the truck. And before you know it, I mean, there's so many trucks out there. It's unbelievable how in just 2 years, quite a few trucks.
Well, so now when you first started traveling around and doing car crushes, I mean, had you gone to the 66s by then, or did you start with the 48s and crushing with those?
No, their first crushes was with the 48s. Yeah, they sure was. And
then what made you decide to go?
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
Just like we was progressing at that time, 48s to 66s. I'm not sure on the dates. That's one thing I'm not good at is dates. If you had as many hard landings as I had, you would probably forget a few dates too.
Well, I have to laugh and I showed my wife quite a few videos yesterday. I was showing her some of the stuff from early days of you and Jim Kramer and Bob Chandler battling it out, and you guys just sitting in a regular cab truck, hanging out the window, watching where you were going. I mean, that had to be a hell of a ride.
Yeah, the early guys like myself and Kramer, we was really taking a beating because of the Trailmaster leaf spring. If you tried to do that now with what they're doing, your back wouldn't take it. When Scott Hess and I in 1990 at our 10-year anniversary, there jumped over the tank. We had Trailmaster shocks, and to jump 10 cars with Trailmaster shocks is hard on the back.
Well, we have a segment on here, Fred, before we get too far into your career with a young man by the name of Christopher Allen. Him and his family, Jim and Carol, they do monster trucking with Jim and Chris. He comes on and does a segment about our guests. So, Mason, let's see what Christopher has to say about Mr. Fred Shafer.
Hi, Monster Truck fans. Christopher Allen, the Monster Truck Guru, has returned once again for another episode of Monster Truck Fact of the Week. This rendition is about one of the sport's founding fathers, Fred Shafer of Barefoot. Originally from Pontoon Beach, Illinois, Fred had a drag racing background before converting his Chevy four-wheel drive pickup into Barefoot, so named for the large big black bears he hauled around at the time. Because Barefoot was a Chevy throughout the entirety of the 1980s, and Missouri rival Bigfoot was a Ford, Chevrolet car-owning fans cheered long and loud for Fred while he was performing out of brand loyalty. At the dusk of the 1980s, Fred unveiled the Barefoot Racer, which along with Taurus Racer and Bigfoot 8 was instrumental in drawing the blueprint for the Stage 3 monster race truck. In 1991, Fred landed a corporate Dodge sponsorship, giving Barefoot its legendary red paint scheme. Fred, Barefoot, and the gigantic levels of horsepower typical of Dodge monster truck engines remained industry elite until Fred's retirement in 1997. For reasons like this and more, Fred was inducted into the historic first ever International Monster Truck Hall of Fame class in 2011. Fred's fact is that in 1996 at the Indianapolis four-wheel off-road jamboree, he ran a 250-foot-long straight-line racetrack in an amazing 4.59 seconds. Because a track of this size, with electronic timing and scoring, has yet to be recreated in the sport since then, it's possible that this record may stand forever. And that does it for another episode of Monster Truck Fact of the Week, fans. Please like Monster Truckin' with Jim and Chris on Facebook and Instagram for loads of amazing Monster Truck Show content. Please like this page for new episodes. Feel free to visit the Monster Truck Museum Hall of Fame in Auburn, Indiana. And of course, Monster Trucks Forever!
Excellent.
Well, gee,
job. Excellent.
What else can we say? I think we covered it all, didn't we?
Perfect. Awesome.
Well, so I'm really curious about like the early days, the early 80s, like I said, the exhibition stuff and starting to see it evolve into competition. I mean, how did that work? Did it start out with just 1-2 trucks at a show and then grew 3-4? I mean, how did that all go back then?
Well, that's real close to exactly what happened. You know, exhibitions, when there wasn't many trucks, it was strictly exhibitions. And then as they progressed and we had, 50 trucks, they would be 5 or 6 trucks at a show now. And the competition started. So the exhibition truck was real good doing exhibitions. But when the competition started, that's when the racing stuff kicked in. So we went back to the old drag racing, what we used to do, and we built the first lightweight fiberglass bodied race truck. Chevrolet was a parts sponsor for me, and they would give me a few sheet metal and a few things. At that time, I sent them some of my old drag racing stuff, and I think they was impressed with it. So the first show, one of the first shows we did was in St. Louis for the St. Louis champion against the other foot truck. 3 days of competition, and what was like I said, it was the first fiberglass truck, and nobody had a fiberglass truck at that time, obviously. So we was worried about the doors not opening, that somebody would want to outlaw the truck. So it's the only fiberglass truck that I know of that actually had opening doors that would open and shut. Well, what had happened during the competition was the long jump in St. Louis Arena. The tire come up and hit the door and pulled the rivets right through the fiberglass where the door came off. So now there's a discussion about outlawing this truck because it's dangerous. You could fall out there. So we're going through this, right? So my wife, she's listening, and they're about to make a decision that maybe this truck shouldn't be legal because somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to fall out of that truck, although you got a 5-point harness. Then about that time, she brought up the Jeep. The Jeep didn't have doors and didn't have a roof. Well, hey, the truck's legal. So that was the St. Louis champion, and that lightweight truck. My competitor's truck was probably about 3,000 pounds heavier than my truck.
Right.
So it's a tremendous difference in the weight when you're talking about 3,000 pounds.
Well, one of the clips I found that was really cool, and unfortunately I don't remember which city it was from, but it was you and Bigfoot, and they had you in 3 different competitions, and you guys had to pull a sled, and then you had I think a long jump, and now I've just gone blank on what the other contest was, but I mean that was back then, was it just the promoters coming up with ideas for you guys to do stuff, or was it you guys saying, "Hey, let's try this"? Or
the main promoter there at the Hot Rod Association, he said, "Come on with me, Fred." We was in the building. He said, "Come on outside here," and there was this big long line of people, and it was just at that time it was just me and Bigfoot in that same show that you just talking about there with the to do the sled pull, the long jump, and the wheel stand
that's what
competition. And then he put his arm around me. He said, "You see all the people lined up there, Fred? They're to see you and Bigfoot." I mean, it's Ford against Chevy. And it's unbelievable. The things you remember is the things that jump out. And I actually see a fist fight that the guards had to break up. The Ford and the Chevy guys are up there in the audience, rooting, standing up. And I mean, just once in a while you see it. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's competition.
Well, I mean, looking back on that stuff, how cool does it be to feel to be a part of the beginning of that? I mean, to know that you were instrumental in where we are now. I mean, if it wasn't for what you guys did, people like me probably wouldn't even have a job nowadays.
It is pretty neat, and you don't think about it when it's happening. You don't think about where this is going to be, and I mean, here it is. 40 years since 1980 when we rolled that thing out. That's 40 years ago. Wow. That's a long time.
Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
It does. Another thing that some of our greatest moments, 7 calls from Hollywood. Within 10 years, we had 7 calls. 5 of those calls went all the way. The other 2 didn't work out. But, the Knight Rider TV show, that was our biggest thing in '85. That was awesome. And then right after that was the ZZ Top music video, Sleeping Bag. Of all places to film Sleeping Bag was in California on Big Bear Mountain. And I just thought that was just awesome.
Couldn't work.
When they said, "Hey, we're filming on Big Bear Mountain." And then another TV pilot, 1 hour with Chuck Connors, the rifleman, and Chuck Mitchell, which I grew up. I mean, when I was seeing him on the rifleman on TV, would you ever think you'd be on the same set with the guy you watched on TV when you was a kid? And then the last one was the Twin Sitters with the Barbarian Brothers. We actually did that one with the Dodge. And then there was a Coors Extra Gold commercial we did. That was the 5 things we did that they called us out to Hollywood for. That's real memorable moments. Them and the championships and some of the tough racing. The casual stuff you kind of forget about, but those are the things that really jump out to you that you remember.
Now let's talk a little bit about Little Barefoot. How did that come about?
Well, Little Barefoot was one of the reasons that we had as many calls from Hollywood as we did, believe it or not. It was the first planetary truck. when we was doing our exhibitions, Jack and I was going to a lot of truck pulls and tractor pulls. We seen these tractors with dual engines with planetary gears, and they're just ripping down through theirs, just doing a rooster tail with these big tires, and we're going, oh, why don't we have them under our monster truck? Why do we keep breaking axles? And this old military stuff is really not made for racing. It's real good for displays and stuff, but so it was the first real planetary truck was Little Barefoot. So we to test it, we took it over to St. Louis underneath the highway, and we throw the big chain around one of the big concrete columns that holds the highway up, and we wanted to try and break it. It smoked all tires. It just smoked all 4 tires. I mean, I had the tire smoking so bad you couldn't see the truck. Well, the next thing you do is you take pictures, right? And we sent them out to California. They was right on the plane, man. They wanted to see it. Unbelievable. That little truck, within 3 months, got 5 magazine covers.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I mean, they've never seen anything like it. I mean, then the planetary started rolling out. I mean, then now everybody wants planetaries. I mean, it was it's unbelievably different, planetaries. That's how that Little Barefoot came about. And then when we got to California, he had the magazine in his hand. I thought it was pretty neat. He showed me the magazine, what it was on the front cover. I mean, that's besides Kathy sending out to the studios, having the magazine right there in front of them, that's, I believe that's one of the reasons we got as many calls as we did. She'd have to get a lot of credit for doing that.
Yeah, make sure you give the wife credit she's due, because if not, she'll remind you.
Yeah, she said you're listening.
Oh, wait, that was me. I didn't say that then. Well, all right, so let's fast forward a little bit. Let's get to where all of a sudden we start getting to the race trucks. I mean, you talked about the lighter truck, but we get to where it's side-by-side racing now, and the series are starting to pop up where it's real racing, and that's where, as popular as you already were, I mean, that's where you really started to shine when all of a sudden the drag racing background came in. I mean, how cool was that when it started to become real drag racing at that point?
Yeah, I was really excited about that because, when I was in my 20s, I had my own engine dyno in the garage there. We had a big block Camaro Pro Stock I was running, and a small block Vega I was running there, 2,100 pounds, ready to race. So I was very familiar with fine tuning things and stuff. So that's right in my expertise, and that was the most fun, was the real down to earth racing.
Well, now, so you won multiple championships, and you started out with the Chevy, and then of course you got the Dodge deal. And how much of a difference in your program did that make with all of a sudden landing a corporate sponsor?
Well, it's like a dream that you could get a corporate sponsor. I mean, they didn't have any good Dodges out there, and they've seen me pretty consistent being a winner. I think they wanted somebody that could take that Dodge and put it in the winner's circle. And they asked me to get on the engine dyno. The guy that had it was in Chicago. So we loaded everything up, and we took the Chevrolet motor out of the truck, put it on the engine dyno. I think it was making around 1350 on 10%. And then the Hemi motor was a little bit over 1,500, so 150 horse right off the bat. But
wow,
the Hemi engine is designed for one thing, to make power. And my first couple runs with that motor in the truck, I couldn't shift fast enough with a slipper clutch and a transmission, because it had so much power. It got the RPM. And then the other thing, I come back and the telltale on the tack said 9,500. And I go, well, you couldn't hold that Chevrolet motor to the floor and make 9,500 out of it in neutral. in that Dodge. I mean, I don't want to say it, but it's true. The way those heads are designed and a hemispheric head and stuff. Wow, man, that's a new high for me. Awesome.
Well, so back in those days, I mean, do you have a story that just sticks out in your head of a race that you love to still talk about? One that was either that close or crashed badly?
Well, you know, if I was going to go out, I guess what I'd want to say is that when I left, I had the indoor record long jump. I had the outdoor record, Guinness World Record long jump, and I had the fastest time ever at special events. And I did that about 3 or 4 times, broke the fastest time ever. That's a good way to retire. I retired on a high note.
So,
Three-time monster truck champ.
yeah, not a lot of people can say that at all. Not even close. So 2011 comes around and they start the International Monster Truck Hall of Fame, and you get the call saying that you're part of the first class. I mean, was that as big of an honor as some of us think it is, or?
Yeah, that's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat thing that the inductees there and the people that's been in the business, and they recognize who has been in there and who is inducted in there, and they just had some more this past weekend that they inducted in, and slowly but surely. But you know, I am proud that I got to race pro stock with some of the biggest names. Bill Jenkins, Bob Glidden, Sox and Martin, all those people, the biggest names in drag racing, and the same with monster trucks. How many people can say that?
Yeah.
You know, the biggest names in monster truck racing, I got to race with them, and the biggest names in pro stock racing, I got to race with them. Wow.
Well, we also on here, one of our big things is fan questions, but I have one more before we get to that. And I'm just curious, since you retired in 97, have you kept up with the sport? Do you follow what's going on now, or when you walked away, did you walk away?
Not as much as I used to. You know, it's changed a little bit, the exhibitions and stuff. And I think what little bit I did see when I was up there at the museum is, you know, we went to the lightweight, faster trucks, and then what they was telling me up there. Now I believe they're hanging more iron on them because of the some of the stuff they're doing. These flips and some of this stuff to make them safe and to make them hold up. I believe they're actually hanging more weight on them again. Now they're back up, I believe, a couple thousand pounds to what they was telling me what they used to be. So it's kind of going back the other way now. But, you know, I mean, with sellout crowds, what can you say?
Yeah, when I first started this in 06, 07, everybody was trying to get lighter and faster, and then the backflip came around, and everybody was trying to get around that 9,800 to 10,000 pound mark. Now we're all floating around 13,000 again. So it's definitely gone the other direction.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mason, I'm sure we've got a few questions or comments for Mr. Shafer.
Oh, we got quite a lot pulling in, but I'm going to kind of go down the list here and start with William Carroll Arnold's question. And he's asking, hey, Fred, you mentioned the Bears coming in early with the trucks. What's the story behind the Bears?
Well, a big animal lover all of my life. You know, we have a little game farm here at the house now. And the guy brought the bears over, and they weighed 3 pounds. And if you ever seen a baby bear, they had diapers on them. You had to bottle feed them. You had to burp them. You know, you just fell in love with them. It was a non-related pair, a female and a male. And that was in late 79. And when I started showing the truck, Sugar Bear would usually ride with me. Now, if you want to see something funny, you pull up to the stoplight, and they glance over at the truck because it's big anyway. When it had 48s on it, But then they look and they look at it and they look in the cab and they go, well, it's a dog. And then about that time, you could read their lips and they stick their hand up and point and say, it's a bear. You could read their lips. It was, and then we got pictures of Sugar Bear in the truck. And then a few of the local stuff that we did, if they didn't like the truck, they liked the bears. So I guess it's a monster truck plus. That's the way I always looked at it. And when we moved from Illinois to Florida, we brought the bears with us, and they'd stayed here until they passed, which the female was 23 and the male was 27, which is a long time for bears to live. So they had a long, happy life. I really, really, really do miss them. You care for something every day, you really miss them.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Lining up a few more here. We have one from CJ Burris asking, hi, Fred. What was the reasoning to covering up the Dodge grill in 1997?
Okay, when I lost my sponsorship, didn't really lose it, didn't renew it because I was ready to retire. We put a brawl on the front of the truck, and just thought we'd run it like that because actually we wasn't representing the Dodge anymore, and I was about done. I was just about to done. That's really no good reason. Just wasn't representing Dodge anymore.
I see.
So I'm curious, what was it made you decide to retire? You just had enough, or?
Well, the special events was over with. The Camel Mud Monsters was over with, and the Camel Mud Monsters, it was kind of fun because every venue you went to with, you either had a short track, you had a long track, you had a straight track, you had a turning track. So it was kind of interesting too inside the buildings all the time. Of course, you didn't get quite the speed that you got, but it took a little finesse to adjust your truck accordingly to try and win. So all that stuff went away, and I was just turned 50. I thought it was about time.
What else you got?
You are pulling up a few more. Here's one from one of our buddies that crushed this, Daniel Chichagash. He's asking, what's the story behind Rhonda and the so-called first rollover?
Yeah, it was Paula. She was a really, really good mud racer, excellent driver. Her husband was a good all-around mechanic, and of course, you're always looking for talent. Scott Hess and some of the other guys that work for me, always looking for talent. But she wanted to drive the truck, and I think they was late getting there. They were supposed to try the truck out, didn't get to try it out, and she it just went over backwards. It just I think it had a little more power than what she expected. And when she hit the cars, and there's just that. I mean, it's just like anything else. You just got to be used to it because you can flip them over. Obviously, it's been done quite a few times, but very first show, unfortunately, very first turned over. We had a new cab on it, completely rebuild the truck. But they went on, and after it was repaired, they helped repair it and went ahead and toured the truck there for a year. So, first woman, as far as I know, I've been told that now. She was the first woman monster truck driver. Yeah.
So the moral of the story is women drivers.
Women drivers.
Yeah, that's what happens. What else you got?
Well, I was hearing him talking about Scott Hess, and we, recently just had him on a podcast an episode or two ago. Here's one from Levi Shones, kind of going back on that subject here. He's asking, how many people did you trust with the barefoot name to represent? Obviously, Warren Davis and Scott Hess come to mind. Were there any more?
Yeah, I think it was Holman. Was it
Bobby Hillman.
Bobby Holman? What was going on at the time? You know, of course we got some good stuff, TV and the Camel Bun Monsters and special events. We had a lot more people calling for us than we could actually do. I mean, we was booked up, and then we're doing the Las Vegas twice a year, the SEMA show, you know, and then the fair convention and this and that. We needed more trucks. At that time, I think we had 6 vehicles trying to fill all the spots. And you know, the fans would ask, how do you get around to so many places at one time? You know, but we had 6 trucks and we kept them busy for a long time.
Boy, that sounds like a lot of logistical nightmare.
It's business, yeah.
We have a few, actually, people like Christopher Allen, Christian Bialik, and a few others. They're wondering, how did it feel to be a part of the USHRA indoor long jump contest in the mid-90s?
You know, it was pretty awesome. You know, you think in that building, and you could see that tape you showed, there was a hallway there. And, you know, if your truck didn't land right and you didn't, I mean, I think it was scary for some of the drivers that wasn't used to that. My truck, I thought, really landed good and drove good. And I will say this, that last truck, with all the things I did with it, I think I drove that truck for 3 years. It never got a scratch on it the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah, I was averaging about 1 rollover a year before that. I finally figured it out how to keep that thing right side up. And with the long jump records and the other things that I did, it never got a scratch on that particular truck. So it was a little scary.
I don't think you were trying hard enough. Hell, now we wreck them getting them out of the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
What else you got, Mason?
Well, while we're still on the topic of the 90s, here's one from Levi Shones again asking, talk about the famous 1990 Rosemont Championship race between you and Taurus.
Wow. Boy, that was, yeah, man, that was right down to the very lost wire. And I mean, the points was so close, you know, between the top 3 trucks there. As a matter of fact, what had happened was I'd lost the round, and then the way the rules was, the guy that beat me hit the wall, so I came back in, and he was disqualified, and then I won the championship. Yeah, it was really right down to the wire between 3 trucks. That was the very first championship, 1990. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow. Let's see. Brandon Robinson has a question asking, Fred, did you ever have intel on what the Bigfoot and Taurus camp were doing with their trucks when you were trying to build your trucks?
No, Jack was, me and Jack has always been pretty close. And when he was with me in the early days, and he was my crew guy when we went to Pomona, California, NHRA drag racing in 1974. Let me tell you a story about Jack. It's a funny story. So
yeah, please do.
We got the pro stock car. We're on our way to Pomona, California, and we're going to NHRA drag race in 1974. and we're just tickled to death. I mean, we pretty much, did a good job around here locally, and we're going out there to qualify at the Winter Nationals. And so we got out there to qualifying, and we qualified 16th on the bubble. The car wasn't running right, and we leaked the engine down, and we had one cylinder leaking about 20%. We was about 3 mile an hour off. We took it back to the motel in Anaheim, and pulled the engine out in the parking lot, and took it apart, and we was cleaning up everything right there. We got ready to go to breakfast, and we came back to the motel in this big enclosed truck, and a guy told us we was going to have to leave, and Jack left the engine block in the shower, and the cleaning lady wasn't real happy about it, and they said we was, they charged me $200 deposit to clean the shower up, and then we had to get the motor and all the stuff out of the motel room. And I told Jack he should have left the engine block in that shower, but that's the story. So Jack knows the story. Me and Jack is drag racers at heart, and I think that's why we was both pretty successful in what we did.
Now, when you
I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. And I think we both retired about the same time as well.
Well, so when you built the first barefoot truck, he wasn't far behind you with Taurus. I mean, was that the plan for you each to have one, or did he just fall in love, decide he needed one too?
When Jack and I was four-wheeling, and when we built the first barefoot truck, you got to remember that we heard stories about Bigfoot trucks, so we go over and look at it, and at that time it had like I think he had like a semi tire on it. It didn't have 48s on it at that time. It was raised up with a lift kit on it, and it had like semi tire on it. And we actually had bought some stuff from Midwest Four-Wheel Drive to assemble the truck that he and I built. And when we looked at the truck, but you got to remember that we was used to a 4-bar with coilover shocks, anodized aluminum, acid dip body. That's what my pro stock car was. I mean, it was a very top of the line car. Then we went back to build our monster truck, and then Jack stayed with me till 1985, and then he had his own ideas on what he wanted to do, and so that's what he did. He went to build his Taurus truck, and I continued on with Barefoot.
Now, did you make sure he didn't steal any of your good ideas when he went to build his own?
Yeah, we talk about once a week. Jack and I do FaceTime usually on Sundays. We talk about once a week still yet now. So I talked to him this morning for over an hour, and I told him about the broadcast. I don't know if he's watching it or not, but he knows about it.
I'm in talks to have him on too, but I want to get all the good stories from you, and that way I can throw them at him when he comes on.
Yeah.
What else you got, Mason?
Good one from Brian Anger here, and he is asking, if you were to come back for one more race, which past or present driver would you choose to line up against?
Well, I think my biggest competitor is who you want to line up against, and that's the one you want to take out. That's the way it would be. You want a challenge. You don't want an easy mark. You want a challenge. That would be a challenge.
Well, now, I know when I talked to you the other day about being on here, and you kind of asked me about some of my past guests, and I told you Gary Porter, and you had a lot of good things to say about Gary Porter. Talk about going up against him over the years.
Yeah, Gary, he's a good old country boy. He's one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. He's really competitive. You can't think that just because he's an old country boy that he's not good at what he does, because I guess out of all the guys I raced, Porter would probably beat me a few times, more than a few times, and I always have to be on my top of my game. You better have all your ducks in a row when you race Porter, because he's right there. Yeah.
Now, was there anybody around that time, besides Gary Porter, that was just a real thorn in your side that got you more than you ever wanted them to? Or did you pretty well handle most everybody on a regular basis?
Well, the fastest trucks out there was, I would probably say was, Bigfoot, Taurus, they had a lightweight truck, Gravedigger, Gravedigger, he was always fun. We traveled together. You really miss the guys that you traveled with. I mean, we would leave Tampa Stadium and go to Miami. Then we would head right out to California. We go out there with Robbie Knievel, and he's jumping 13 school buses inside the LA Coliseum. I mean, it's just all of us guys traveled together, all good competitors, and had a lot of fun. And that's the part you miss. I haven't seen Dennis in person probably in 20 some years.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, so something we like to do, and Mason, I'm sorry, I'm kind of stealing your question here, but it's Fred Shafer, and I want to do the talking, and you be quiet. So, one of our favorite questions to ask everybody is we always like to ask about a favorite road story, something that happened. I mean, we had some good ones from Gary Porter, some other guys about why you guys were traveling together, and something funny or crazy breakdown. Is there any you can think of back then that just always stuck in your mind?
No, I can't think of any. I can't think of any road stories right off. It was enjoying. It was pretty neat to see Evil Knievel out here at St. Louis International Raceway, and Robbie Knievel out there and doing what he was doing, and some of the people that you get to. That's some of the memories that you want to think of.
Right. What else you got, Mason?
1 second, just pulling up a couple more. Here's a good one from Alan Manriquez, and he's asking, what was it like racing Gary Porter, Dan Runty, and all those competitors in the 90s?
Well, those was two of the main guys that if I wanted to win, those are two of the main guys you got to take out. When you get past them guys there, and you got a pretty good chance of going all. Them's the tough guys. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of those guys, something I'm kind of curious about is, so obviously Bigfoot decided to come out with the snake bite truck. It was a gimmick that they did, and it was very successful in its doing. And part of the reason I heard was because you weren't allowed to run two of the trucks with the same name at a show.
Right.
So they came out. How did you guys that were competing up against them feel about the whole gimmick of snake bite and Colt Cobra? Was this kind of a joke to you guys, or was it something you thought was actually a neat idea at the time?
Well, I think there was a lot of ideas that people tried, kind of like the wrestling thing. That's where they get that at, I believe. Some of it I guess was working, but I guess at the tail end, we had a couple trucks there too. At the special events, we had Rampage and Barefoot, and that's
right.
where Dodge was the second truck there as well. Rampage. So
right.
They didn't entertain any ideas. Dodge didn't entertain any ideas about anything like a snake bite thing.
They didn't want to come out with the hopping kangaroo Dodge and
No.
and have Kevin the Kangaroo driving.
No, there wasn't none of that.
What else you got, Mason?
Here's one from a driver we know, Dawson Reyes, and he was asking, what was going through your head when you carried the wheel stand in Canfield, Ohio?
You know, what was going through my head is I wasn't letting off the gas and I wanted to win the race. And that was one of the few times I believe I remember that. It wheelied. Once I left the starting line, the front tires never touched till I was over the second set of cars. And if I'm not mistaken, when it landed so hard that it threw my helmet off.
Wow.
And
Holy cow.
my helmet hit the windshield. I remember that. That was hey, that was some really good footage, and it looked real impressive. But you can't go too fast like that. And I think that was one of the first times I ever did that. But the fans liked it. Hey, it was a fan thing.
Show needed it.
Yeah.
Actually, just got another comment from yet another badass driver. Cody Saucier has a little bit to say here. He's saying the competitors in this current era in this industry are just becoming less and less knowledgeable of the routes. I consider myself in that category. Maybe I'm getting old, but Fred, yourself, and many others are remembered, and at literally every event in every sorry, I'm mixing it up here. Are remembered at every literally event I compete in. Thank you to you and Kathy for your efforts in all those years. Huge fan.
Hey, we really appreciate that, and we appreciated Kathy's listening for y'all to remember us, and you know the young guys coming in, they're very aggressive, very talented, and it's awesome. And thank you for that. Thank you.
Well, so that kind of brings up something interesting to me. I mean, there is a lot of younger guys in this, like Cody Saucier, who are very respectable, very knowledgeable, and they truly understand where this business come from. But there's a lot of kids, like he's saying, a lot of these young drivers that have no idea. They think Monster Jam's where Monster Truck started. Gravedigger was the first. I mean, if you had any advice for these young guys, you know, and just out learning about the business, what would it be from somebody who's been there from the beginning?
Oh, I don't know. You know, these guys, what they're doing with these trucks now, you know, they're really, a lot of them, they're really doing a good job out here, putting on a good show. I mean, they're packing the stands. That's what the promoters want. Be safe. You know, in my 17 years, we've seen some trucks go in a crowd and such and such. Be safe out there and try and do the best job you can, and it'll get you to the winner's circle.
All right, Mason, we got one or two more, and then we'll let the Shafers go and finish their evening.
Sure. Let me go ahead and find some more to top off tonight with. Here's a question from Wayne Norberry Jr. He's saying, Fred was a great competitor, but during the Penda Series in 1996 in Lima, Ohio, what was the deal with the protest between the Barefoot team and the Bigfoot team in regards to who was hopped up on fuel?
What I remember about the, I'm not sure if it's the same show, but I believe it was. There was a camera on the line. They called the Bigfoot the winner. I had Kathy was on the line at the same time with her camera, and I was about a truck length ahead, and they called him the winner. I believe the Dodge guy was there. We went in and reviewed the camera. What the camera showed that they didn't see is I hit the second set of cars so much faster. My truck, when they went back and reviewed, I mean, you got to think about this. They went back and reviewed the win again. And then they looked real close at the very top of the screen, and they seen the bottom of my rear tire in front of his truck. It's all you could see. My truck was so much taller, so much higher, because I hit the second set of cars with so much more speed. It ejected the truck so much higher. Is all you could see was the very bottom of the tire. Only about 8 inches of the tire was at the top of the screen. They called him the winner, and I was a full truck length ahead of him. That was the drama there. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat, actually.
So the moral of that was we need to have widescreen cameras at all times.
Exactly. Need to raise the camera up so they don't miss it.
When you're filming monster trucks, do not point at the ground.
Exactly.
All right, Mason, you got one more.
Yep, here's one from Tommy Evans, and he's asking, if you ever had the chance, would you ever rebuild the original Barefoot again?
You know, it was a really neat old truck. It really was. I probably wouldn't. I probably would maybe want to go on up to the race truck, the more newer technology truck like I had. If I was going to rebuild something, I would probably want to go to that. Scott Hess built a real similar truck and just put in the museum up there, which was really a great honor. And that's why I went up there to see him do that. And I mean, it looks real close to the original truck. That's what we really liked about it. It was the same suspension and everything is like the original truck was. So, and it is pretty and shiny. He did an excellent job. He sure did.
Well, Mr. Shafer, I cannot thank you and your wife enough for being on and bearing with us and trying to come on our little show. But it has truly been my honor and my privilege to have you on here. You are one of my heroes in this business, and I can't thank you guys enough for spending the time with us tonight.
Well, we appreciate it, and you know, the fans out there that's been with me all these years, and we still get occasional. Some of the pictures we sent out years ago had our phone numbers and addresses on them, and they're forwarded and mailed to us still. It's pretty, and they find me on Facebook, and they find me on, you know, it's we really do appreciate all the fans. We appreciate you having us on the show. We really enjoyed it.
Well, hopefully, maybe one of these years, if I get to the Hall of Fame or somewhere, I bump into you and I get to meet you in person and probably stutter a lot because I'll probably be awestruck in person. But once again, to you and your wife, be safe and thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
What?
I'm just looking through the camera, seeing all the butterflies flying out of your stomach right now.
Dude, I just got to sit and have a conversation with Fred Shafer. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. That was you know, not to sound stupid or corny, but I've met a lot of people in this business. You know, and I've talked to ones that everybody calls their heroes that are awesome guys, and they are heroes, the Dennis Anderson, Tom Mintz, stuff like that. I've got to hang out with Jim Kramer. I've got to hang out and spend time and talk with Dan Runte, you know, these guys. But Bob Chandler and Fred Shafer are my two heroes. I mean, these are the two guys that begun it all. So being able to do this, it's really, and now I'm just kind of rambling like an idiot at this point. So I'm sorry, but
it's all good.
That was cool. I don't know what else to say, but that was freaking cool. I could have sat here for hours. But yeah, I just kind of turned myself just kind of dumbing up. So it was just kind of time to be done.
It's all good. I mean, looking at these comments right now, you have people like Allison Turner saying, glad you guys are bringing the grassroots into the show. And even Cheech Agos learned something today, saying, hey, we learned something new today, that Gravedigger wasn't the first. So who knows what you're going to get on this podcast.
Well, and you guys, everybody that's still watching, make sure you watch Cheech's too. They have a lot of the older school guys on. You know, me and Cheech have had this conversation that, I want the younger guys, and I don't know how many people actually watch this or whatever, but I want the younger guys to understand the history of it. If you see the people that are most successful in sports, football players and stuff, they can tell you the history of the NFL, the football. They can tell you the history of baseball, the basketball. To truly be successful in this business all around, not just as a driver, as a crew guy, but to be truly successful in the business and understand the business, you have to understand where it came from. So it's cool to hear these guys and what they did and the things they went through to help us more appreciate what we do now.
Exactly.
In my little humble opinion, not that anybody cares, but that's it. Y'all just got it. You're welcome.
Well, I mean, they're listening live, and it looks like people are agreeing with you still, so I say.
Well, Mason, you want to give a shout out to our sponsors one more time before we announce our next guest?
Yep, course. As usual, Florida Sauce Slinger's own Spur Hot Sauce, the local Florida-based business hot sauce where Southwest meets the Southeast in a clash of hot and tangy flavors. Make sure to give them a like and contact on Facebook and or Instagram and tell MonsterCast sent you. Also, we still have Monster Truckinator TV, the place to go on Facebook and YouTube for all things new and old monster truck related.
Mason.
Yeah.
I just talked to Fred Shafer.
No way.
Yeah. So, all right. So, speaking of old school, we're gonna keep it old school. And Wednesday, our guest is going to be Gravedigger's own Kristen Anderson. She's old school, right?
Yeah, pretty sure. Last time I checked.
Yeah. No, it'll actually be cool. Our first solo female guest. But no, it'd be Kristen Anderson, obviously daughter of Dennis and sister of Adam and Ryan. So it'd be cool to go from this perspective. Somebody's been around forever to somebody who's been around for a couple of years, but grew up in it, so is obviously no stranger to this business or the history of it. But yeah, so that'll be Wednesday night, 8:00 Central. And with that said, that concludes this broadcast of Cameron talking to Fred Shafer.
Young man, hard man, shouting in the street, gonna take on the world someday. You got blood on your face, your big